Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to take a quick look at some easy enemy AI, some enemy pathing. So we're going to use a nav mesh to do this, and we're going to use a tower defense scenario. So as you can see, we have 3 separate lanes here. We'll put an enemy in each lane, and each one will travel through the lane, and then they will converge on the objective. So the first thing that you're going to do, you need to determine where the nav mesh is going to be. So what area can be walked on, what area cannot be walked on. So I'm going to select everything except the camera, the objective itself, and the directional light. And what I'm going to do is up here where it says static, I click on the drop-down arrow, and I'm going to choose navigation static. There's different kinds of static settings. We only care about navigation for this particular tutorial. Okay, second, we're going to go to Window, we're going to go to AI, and we go to Navigation, and that opens the navigation window next to Inspector, at least the way that I have it set up. You're going to want to click on the Bake tab if it isn't already, and then you're going to click on Bake. So you now can see this blue path, and you can see the blue lines showing the limits. If you notice, there's no blue along the top here. And you can see the blue outlines the objective, so they can't actually walk into the objective. They'll converge on it, but that's it. Okay, so next we need to grab the position of this. So what we're going to do, we're going to add a script to it. Again, a script is created by clicking on right-click, create C# script, and in this case I called it objective because it's the objective that you're going to try to protect and the enemy is going to try to approach. So we click on objective, click on the inspector, and we're going to put that script on it. All this script does is it simply captures the position of the objective. So there's a couple ways you can do this. There's other tutorials where people create a direct reference to this. I'm instead creating a variable to refer to its position, 6 one way, 1/2 dozen the other. There's a few things that I like about this, which I'll mention at the end. So we go into that script, and as I said, all we're doing is public static vector3 target position. So static is going to make this variable accessible throughout the entire application. It's a vector3 type, so it's X, Y, and Z, and the name just lets you know what you're going to use it for. The name can be whatever you want. I'm calling it target POS. And then in the start section, you say target position, so that variable is equal to get component transform.position. Again, get component gets the component of the object the script is attached to. Specifically, it's looking at the transform component of that object and extracting the position from it and dropping it into this variable. That's really all that script does. Okay, so now we need enemies to travel along these paths. So let's take our little robot fella here. We'll put one there. We'll put one there. And we'll put one here. What we'll do on all 3, we will add the nav mesh agent. So add component, navigation, nav mesh agent. Do want to mention something. As you can see, they have these cylinders around them. It's kind of like a collider. It lets you know what area is considered off limits. So in other words, if there's a low-hanging path that would clip into this, they can't walk under it. If the path is too narrow, they can't go through it. So it's kind of like a collider. And just like a collider, you can indeed adjust it. Okay, so now what we want to do, we now want to attach the script to all 3 of them. In this case, it is the enemy script. And if you notice, there is no rigid body. There is no character controller. So the kind of components you may be used to seeing, instead, it is just that nav mesh agent and the enemy script. Okay, so first we need to add UnityEngine.ai, or else some of these commands won't be familiar to the editor. So using UnityEngine.ai, private nav mesh agent, enemy agent. So again, this is the type of the reference, the type of variable, and this is the name that you're giving it. In the awake section, we simply say take that reference, get component navmesh agent. So we already discussed that we added a navmesh agent. So what we're doing is for each of these individual objects, we're creating private, so each will have their own, and we're making it set to that navmesh agent. That way we can make direct changes to it via the script, which is exactly what we do. In the update sections of this happens with every frame. We say enemy agent. So again, that's that reference we just made. Enemy agent destination is equal to objective dot target position. That is the variable that we made in the objective script. And again, with static variables, you have to declare where it's coming from. So it's coming from the objective script and then the variable that you're referencing. Okay, so if I haven't forgotten anything, this should actually already work. This is actually really simple to use. So let's run it. And there they are walking. They were sliding at first because I have not. Let's go to Animator. This is something you might not have to do with yours. This one, this model is fully animated and it comes in a demo showcase mode where it's cycling through all the animations. So let's just run that one more time. There we go. It's still idle to begin with, but that's fine. And that's it. Okay, now we can make them walk slower if you feel they walk too fast, okay? So what we can do, we can click on them individually. And if you see in the navmesh agent, speed 3.5. So the smaller the number, the slower they'll go. So let's make this guy at the bottom of the slow. So we'll have him go, say, 2. It can be even slower than that. We'll have the guy in the middle go a little bit faster. He'll be 2.5. And the guy at the top will keep the same speed. And as you can see, they are definitely traveling at different speeds. Okay, so I think that's about all I really wanted to show you for this one. Yeah, I think that's about it. So now you see how you can add a navmesh agent to an object, how you can make it path towards an objective, and you don't have to use the lookat command. You don't have to use forward. You simply tell it the target that it wants to go to. Oh, that's what I was saying about why I used a variable instead of just referencing the object itself. Reason for that is I find it a little bit easier by creating that degree of separation. If you want to do things like maybe there's a decoy, okay, what you would then do is you'd go into the script and say, so maybe you have a decoy ability. So what you would do is you could simply have this get changed to that decoy value. And then when the decoy whatever expires, then you could have another command that resets this. So by separating it from that, you're kind of creating that degree of separation. I think it makes it a little bit easier to scale and make things that you might not be able to quite as easily if you just directly reference the object. In other words, what you would do here, if you didn't do what I just did, you'd have to create a variable here that references the transform of the objective, and then this would say enemy agent.destination equals whatever the name of the variable is dot position. So 6 one way, 1/2 dozen the other, but by having a variable, I think that you can more directly intervene and do things, again, like create decoys and put in a different target position and that kind of thing. You can also use navmesh on the player. I won't do it in this tutorial because this is really just about enemy pathing and specifically in a tower defense environment. But you could also do that. I'm working on a simple tank game, and I'm using the navmesh to determine where the tank can move without having to put in a bunch of variables, saying what the boundaries are without putting in a bunch of colliders. And so I found that very helpful. So I think that's about it. So if you enjoyed this, please consider leaving a like. If there's something you'd like to see, please leave a comment. If you've enjoyed the comment, please consider subscribing. I do try to do content not every week, but close to every week. I do have a full-time job, so obviously I can't do this every day or every week, but I do try to constantly put out content. And that should about do it. So please enjoy the rest of your day.